I'm thinking about the drift that happens when it's me and not we. And
Oh,
there's side projects and there's all kinds of work that goes on that people are trying to make up for the fact that they believe in the mission, they're not convicted by the mission. If you're all excited about it in the boardroom, but not in the side room, you got a problem.
There's no shortage of talk about mission right now. Every organization has one. They're listed on our websites, written on our office walls. There's a lot of talk about mission. But here's the real question. Is there enough talk about conviction? That's our focus on today's episode of Reaching for Remarkable. I'm Brooke Hodnefield with Slingshot Group, where we help you build remarkable teams through staffing and coaching. Today, I'm joined by Tim Foote, CEO of Slingshot Group and author of Reaching for Remarkable, and Matt Wright, the VP of Church Executive Search. Hey, guys.
Hey, bro.
hey, bro, good to see you.
Tim, let's start with the basics. Why conviction, and what is it, and why is it the first signature?
Right. Well, conviction is why we do what we do. It's a shared understanding of why we exist and what we're called to. It's what drives everything.
Everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. How about some examples? Do you have real-time examples of this?
Of conviction? Well, have you ever been hungry for Chick-fil-A waffle fries on a Sunday? And
Always.
And why are they closed? Because of their conviction to close on Sundays to allow their staff to worship, right?
Yeah.
Or have you ever flown Southwest Airlines and been a part of their open boarding group, which they are now reassessing because of new convictions?
Right.
Or have you lived in a state that was desperate for an In-N-Out burger but wondered why you just didn't have one? It's because of their conviction to have the freshest, healthiest produce right near a distribution center. Those are all examples of conviction.
And why I don't have one in Kansas City.
Right. Okay.
It's too far away, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, you share in your book, Tim, I'm going to read right from the text. A remarkable team filters everything and everyone through its deeply held convictions. Is conviction intuitive? I used to think so, and I've led teams and observed the most remarkable ones. I've seen time and time again that it requires deliberate effort. Remarkable teams don't just talk about their mission, they use their core conviction to filter their actions, decisions, and relationships. You make an important distinction in the book between belief and conviction. So filters everything and everyone through its deeply held convictions. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So you know this, Brooke, and you know Matt too, because we've worked with so many teams, that sometimes you walk in and you can tell when people believe in their mission, but they're not convicted by it. It's like, why do we come to work every day? Why do we commit some of our best hours to move this mission forward? Because we're convicted by it. And when a team really understands that or has that shared reason as to why they exist, they filter everything through it. Choices, what they decide to do and what not to do, who's on the team or who needs to transition off the team, who we need on the team to move it forward. Everything is filtered through those strongly held convictions.
Which is why I personally love being a part of Slingshot Group, because I feel like it's not only belief, but our convictions that are clear and the way we interact with each other, right?
Yeah.
I feel like.
Like I would hope, Brooke, right now, people listening to this are already thinking, okay, how is our team motivated by our conviction? What are our convictions? What are the values that we hold as sacred because of our shared understanding of why we exist and what we're called to do? It's the why behind the what.
Absolutely. And Matt, you've worked in and with a ton of organizations.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how conviction shows up there.
Yeah. If I could, I'd even love to start with the first organization that I worked for. So right out of college, I went to work in the corporate world and I was pretty excited about it. I had done an internship at this great big company, and it was work that was really interesting, and it was like a great career path. And I remember my job on the 35th floor. I was really pumped about it. I remember my little cubicle and my team and all those things. And after about a year and a half of it, I found myself doing well. It was clear that this was working. Like I was able to help our team win. And this was a great company that had a noble purpose. It mattered. What we were doing mattered. This was helping people put their kids through college. This was helping people retire. But at the end of the day, conviction as I think about what you talk about, Tim, conviction's about passion. And, that root word passion is suffering. It means, what do we care so much about that I'm willing to suffer for it? I had no passion for that job.
Right.
So even though I could help us be successful for that little team, and I was, a peon in the whole thing, even though I could help us be successful, there was no conviction. And it became really clear, I'm going to need to move out of this. This isn't going to work for me. Fast forward later on, like you said, Brooke, I've been able to work on teams and with teams where you can see the conviction. Lots of teams have got really compelling mission statements. Conviction, though, what that looks like is when I'm willing to suffer for this mission, when I'm willing to reorder my day around this. Tim, you said it just a second ago. These are some of the best hours of my day.
Yeah.
When my brain is the sharpest. As a leader, I think we have to be thinking, are we giving our teams a purpose that they're willing to give the best hours of their day toward?
Yeah.
That's what it's looked like for me, Brooke.
Yeah, it's interesting what made me think, when Matt was talking, it made me think of the staffing work that we do, Brooke, and what keeps people on teams. And it's conviction. And when they're connected to that mission, they will go through tough seasons and stay because they believe.
That's right.
Even on the hardest of days, because they care deeply.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the traps. And I love that you named the traps, because I think it's great to talk about the aspects that are strong when it comes to conviction, but definitely there's some traps. So there's 3 that you mention in the book: the confusion trap, the drift trap, and the misalignment trap. I personally love the drift trap because it makes me think of the squirrel. And it's you've lost focus. There's a lot of momentum in a lot of different directions, but you're kind of losing your focus on the focus of conviction. So, but I'm intrigued most by what you shared about the confusion trap. Could you just share a little bit more about that one, Tim?
Yeah, it's a lack of clarity around the mission and around the values associated with the mission that become our convictions, that things start to lose focus. We lose that filter. We start to get distracted by side projects. We forget to keep the mission in front of us for every meeting so that we can keep focused on that North Star. It's pretty evident for us when we walk into a team environment when they just don't know why they exist. And it leads to a lot of drift. It leads to the next trap. These traps are so important because it gets you off task. And conviction is so important that you've got to be aware of when there's confusion around that North Star.
And it's very easy, I feel like, especially with drift. There's a lot of good, great, greater, better that you can easily find your way navigating towards and lose focus. But Matt, what are some practical things that you've seen work for teams that are stuck in that specific confusion trap?
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting. The confusion trap for me, what oftentimes it'll look like is where we're doing good work, but is it the right work? Is it the best work? Is it the work that's really pushing us toward that conviction? A lot of it comes down to aligned priorities. A lot of it comes down to aligned calendars. I think, well, maybe this is a little bit strong, but I think as your calendar is an indication of your conviction.
Amen.
I think it is. I think my calendar is an indication of my conviction. And so I think about your organization, whatever the team is that you're leading, if you could somehow collectively look at your entire team's calendar and see where are we putting our time and our energy and our efforts, does that align with what we say really matters? And if it doesn't align, you're asking practically what we can do about it. Yeah. If it doesn't align, I think then that's an opportunity. And the opportunity probably isn't to try to arm wrestle our calendars to match our convictions. I think the opportunity is to get in touch with our convictions again, to say, we get one shot at this. This is important enough for us to say no to something else so that we can say yes to that. So that's where I think if you're a team leader, that's where I'd have you look at the calendar, look at the time, look at the energy, the priorities, and then blow fire on that conviction, on those embers so that it's roaring again.
It's interesting because I think that leads to the misalignment trap too. When you look
Oh,
at the
yeah, you're
calendar,
right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's busy work, and often you've got people on your team
Yeah.
that think they're doing the right work, but it's the feedback they haven't gotten to realize, oh no, that's busy work, and it's keeping us from keeping focus.
Yeah, Tim, haven't you seen sometimes good work keeps you from the right work?
Absolutely.
And-
Absolutely.
And what's really interesting is for me, like I've got things that I enjoy doing. Maybe I have things that I have history doing that I'm trained at doing or whatever. And my individual convictions, if you will, like my little c convictions, can get in the way of our organization's big C convictions. And so like we have to somehow, this is the hard work of leadership,
Right.
is to align all of us, even my little things, toward the things that really matter for all of us.
It's interesting, a side note, both of you two have done a lot of succession coaching and consulting with organizations, churches, nonprofits.
Yes.
And conviction is such a fragile thing in a season of succession or transition. How have the two of you seen that play out, and how have you refocused on conviction in a succession process?
Well, we would say in a succession season, there's a pressure test pushed on everything across an organization. And so if something's already vulnerable, it's going to be exacerbated and emphasized. And so conviction in particular is one of those deep-seated aspects of succession that has to be rock solid because it's going to be tested in a succession season.
You know how you know if it's actually a conviction of the organization? I think of a conviction like riverbanks around the river. It keeps our work in check. It keeps our time in check. It keeps us moving in the right direction. And if you violate that riverbank, it's a disaster. It's a flood. It is not okay. That's how you know if it's actually a conviction, because if it's violated, if we don't do it, then we all know this is not okay.
Yeah.
This is a natural disaster.
Yeah.
This can't happen again.
You know how that sounds? It sounds like this. This isn't us.
That's right. Yeah.
This isn't who we
Yeah,
are. This
absolutely.
isn't us. That's how you pinpoint conviction.
Well, we've often seen, I'm sure you all have each seen this many times, where you walk into an organization and the leader at the helm of the organization has deep conviction. It's very clear they know the direction they're going. But then you start talking to other people on the team and you hear a very, very different story. And even real-time example right now, working with an organization that they are walking through it right now and are really trying their best to really elevate their mission and make a greater impact. But their tension is diversified in a million different directions beneath the CEO level because they have the drift trap taking hold. And my goodness, the amount of squirrels and misdirection and a lot of action and a lot of hard work, but not a lot of momentum.
Right.
And that can be a really, really big challenge for leaders. So why is shared conviction so critical? And Matt, I'm going to ask you this question. What happens when it's just the leader's conviction?
Oof. I think that's really hard. I think the best convictions are contagious, you know, where they catch. Good convictions catch. And I think you can tell if this is a conviction that we actually all hold because it catches, because we all end up with that. But if it's just the leader's conviction, we might have a communication problem at that point where we aren't able to communicate that conviction in a way that catches, in a way that's contagious.
Which is another signature we'll talk about in a couple episodes.
Right?
Absolutely.
I think it can also be an issue of, this is really hard. We want to love people and let people pursue the things that get them so excited in their roles. Absolutely. But we talk about the alignment trap. There is if we cannot align our people and get them as excited about the things that get us excited, we are destined for mediocre work, good enough work. We're destined for B- conviction. We're destined for a bunch of people rowing as hard as they can in different directions. And maybe we move where we want to go, but we don't get there. I believe that you have to start off, if you're the leader of the organization, if you're the CEO, if you're the senior pastor, if you're the director of that team or that ministry, it starts with you. And then I think it goes to the people that are closest to you. So find those people that are the friendlies. the people that are the very closest to you, and can you somehow bring them together to that conviction where now it's ours and we're in it, and then it can catch from there.
Yeah. You talk a lot, Brooke, about the drift.
Mm.
And as Matt's talking about that, I'm thinking about the drift that happens when it's me and not we. And there's side projects and there's all kinds of work that goes on that people are trying to make up for the fact that they believe in the mission. They're not convicted by the mission. If you're all excited about it in the boardroom, but not in the side room, you got a problem. And I think that's one of the most important things for people to do a personal inventory as they're listening to this or watching this today is, are our people sold out to our mission? Are they convicted by it? Do we keep it in front of everything we do? We know at Slingshot, we build remarkable teams.
Sure.
It drives all of our work. And if something is off brand or off mission, we're not going to do it. But if people aren't sold out of the mission, they're going to make up other things to do that are going to keep them engaged or try and move the mission in a different direction.
Yeah, and it may or may not be helpful.
Exactly. It's got to be we conviction and not me conviction. And back to the whole succession piece, when you go from a founder or you shift the leader of an organization, you have to protect the we, you have to protect the mission, and you have to re-energize conviction.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask a question, Brooke, but I'd love to.
I think you can. I think it's
Tim,
absolutely.
I'm super curious. You've been doing this for a long time. You've been in hundreds, thousands of organizations. I suspect that there are times where you realize that a conviction that maybe the leader has isn't strong enough to be the we conviction. What do you do when you realize that this question, maybe you're a leader that's listening, watching this right now, and you're like, I don't know if I've got a conviction in me that's strong enough to be a we conviction. What do you do?
Yeah, I think that's a question of self-awareness. We've talked a lot about how self-awareness is so important in leadership, but what we're talking about is team awareness. Yeah. I think you have to revisit calling. I think you have to revisit the strength of the mission. Is this time when we need to go back to the mountaintop and we need to revisit what we're all about? And do we need to tweak language a little bit? But I think that you've got to pay attention to that and not ignore it.
Yeah.
And then you've got to come back down from the mountain and make sure people are on the journey with you. You know, Matt, we've walked into situations, organizations, teams where we can tell that's the case. Mm-hmm. And we've had to have one-on-one conversations with the team leader to say, hey, it's time for some clarity work.
Yeah.
It's time to revisit the direction here and recommit to the direction and then work out, okay, are we focused on the right things? And are we rowing? You said rowing in the right direction. Are we even rowing with the right people?
Yeah. Wow. I used to have a leader who would challenge me often. Matt, you only get one life. Is this how you want to be spending it?
Right.
And I just really appreciate that challenge. I think as leaders, it's our responsibility to realize we have to paint a conviction that is strong enough that our entire organization can be like, yep, that's worth it. That's worth the passion. That's worth the suffering. That's worth the priorities. That's worth the calendaring. That's worth it.
Yes.
And I feel like today more than ever, how we work is so different from one organization to the next. So you might be on site, you might be remote, you might be a hybrid situation. And so the continuity even becomes more important, and the consistency and being able to translate that conviction. Because if not, to your point, you're either rowing in the wrong direction or you're maybe siloed and you're focused head on into some aspect of the work, but don't recognize that part of your team is over here. And maybe everyone's working hard, but not in the same direction.
And sometimes you even need to stop as a leader, and the two of you lead teams, to stop and say, hey, let's remember why we do what we do. Yep. And then also as a leader, you need to look at those important times when you're maybe retreating with the team or you're having a gathering with the team. How can you bring it to life again? I mean, you know, at Slingshot, we have met in an airplane hangar.
That's right.
We've talked about the forces of flight and what that means to the teams we help build. And we've met on a beach and talked about the momentum of the waves and what to do when the tide's out, when the tide's coming in. We've been in a forest and talked about aspen groves stoves and
Oh,
and
my
how
favorite.
and how the underground root system connects everything together, and systems, which we'll be talking about, are so important. It's all about remembering the why, and then that leads to the how.
I love you're already going in this direction, Tim, but what stories of conviction have inspired you?
Gosh.
It's a great question.
I think for me, when I look at nonprofit organizations that have such defined missions, it's like World Vision, Compassion International, Charity Water, that are so focused. I think of the greatest mission of all, and that's the Great Commission that Jesus left us with, and how we see in all the churches that we work with that there's so many unique expressions of that mission. We get frontline. We get
Absolutely.
the frontline opportunity to witness these unique thumbprints that God. And then I think of the nonprofits that come out of the churches we work with.
Yeah.
Think of YouVersion.
So many.
YouVersion just
That's a great one.
clicked over 1 billion subscribers.
That's incredible.
They're worth
That's
billions
a
of
lot
dollars.
of
They're worth
subscribers.
billions of dollars, except they're not for sale.
Hmm.
They're not for sale.
Conviction.
Because of their convictions.
That's right.
So there's just I could go on about that
Yeah.
for another half an hour, but there's so many.
You know what's interesting, Tim, is sometimes we work with organizations that are in a hard spot where maybe a leader has had hard things happen in their life, or there have been outside forces, whatever it might be, they're in a difficult spot.
Yeah.
Sometimes conviction is the glue that will hold the
It's the last thing
organization.
they're holding on to.
It's the last thing that they're holding on to. Sometimes even when culture, we're going to talk about culture later, when culture's tough,
Yeah.
it's conviction
Yes.
that'll make people stick. I looked at
Absolutely.
it for me, corporate world. It was fine. It was conviction why it didn't work for me. I've been a part of other teams. It's conviction that makes me stay.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. For the leader who's realizing their team has belief but not conviction, we established those definitions earlier. Where do they start? And Tim, I'll have you go first. Matt, would love to hear your thoughts too.
I think we've touched on a lot of it, Brooke, but I think it's revisiting clarity work around our why. If you sense that you're a little stuck as a team, then it's probably time for a stop moment.
And you're going to get stuck.
Oh, yeah. We're all going to get stuck. It's time for a stop moment and to get away and to remember what we're called to. Remember why we exist. Do the important clarity work as a team. And sometimes that will bring about transition on a team.
And stopping is a discipline. That's hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it will bring about transition on a team because people will realize that maybe they're called out at this point in time.
Yeah.
But revisiting that clarity work is so important, and recommitting, putting your hat in the ring again and saying, I'm for this. And again, I'm going to give some of the best years of my life to this because I believe in where we're headed.
And allowing permission for someone, to your point, that does not feel convicted to move forward can step out in a way of honor and respect and grace that may save harder conversations in the future.
Yeah. So it's that clarity work. And then it's continuing to rehearse the mission and the conviction. It's continuing to have it on the wall, putting it before meetings, having it in one-on-ones. It's always talking about why we exist and why we're a part of this.
Absolutely. Can never say it too many times, right?
Right.
Matt, what are your thoughts on that? Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll repeat the question. For the leader who's realizing their team has belief, but not conviction, where do they start?
I think it's an excellent question. And Tim, I want to call back to something you talked about before, which is self-awareness and the self-leadership part of this. As leaders, we are called to be conviction thermostats, not conviction thermometers, right? Our job is to set the temperature of conviction, not just measure the temperature of conviction. And what's so hard about that, if you think about it, and we all know that this is true. I'm not saying anything that's groundbreaking. We all know this. You can't set a temperature that you don't hold yourself. It's got to start with us. It's got to start with me. It's got to start with you. So if you're realizing your team has belief and not conviction, I would gently want to hold up a mirror and say, could it be that you have belief and not conviction? It's really hard for you to set a temperature that you are not experiencing yourself. So how do you get yourself back to the conviction place? And then you start, rather than, it's really hard to set the temperature for the entire organization, start small. Start with those folks that are the closest to you, set that temperature, charge them up to be the thermostats. let them set their temperatures and just let it go from there.
You bring up an important point, Matt, because we talk about team awareness, and that's what this series is about. This book is about. But you have to show up self-aware.
Yeah,
and that's so important.
Very good point.
And this conviction work and clarity around it is important work, but it's hard work. And because sometimes it's hard enough to know what temperature to set the thermostat in the meeting room, right? And the right answer is 74.
He really
takes
74 people.
That's for the Americans. I think that's like 22 for the
it's just
for metric people.
It's warm, actually, is what it is. But well, and I lie because I have one other thought I'd love to kind of expound on a little bit and hear your thoughts. So conviction is costly.
Yeah.
It costs us to be convicted to something. I mean, a great example in the Bible are the disciples. I mean, it cost them their lives. Thoughts on that, and even just what direction would you go, even as I say that?
I go exactly there. I mean, that is the pinnacle. We talk about every remarkable mission deserves a remarkable team. If it's good enough for Jesus, I mean, it's good enough for all of us.
That's a high bar.
Okay.
And the disciples left their nets and followed him.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
Without question.
That's massive conviction. And so that's, I mean, we talk about the North Star. That's our North Star.
Yeah.
We want to give our lives to something that's worth following like that.
Which every organization, that's where they begin, right? With their mission statement, they're convicted because they want to impact in a meaningful way. And it's hard. It's going to be costly.
Right.
Yeah.
I think every individual on your team is asking for it. I think they say yes to be a part of your organization, be it as a volunteer, part-time, full-time, career, whatever it might be. They say yes. Yeah, maybe there's a paycheck involved, but really they're saying yes, I think, to the purpose, to the why, to the reason, to the conviction. I think people want it. I think it's our job as leaders to think through, okay, so how do I offer it? How do I put it how do I communicate it in a way that we can all do it together? And again, I'll come back to it. You can't have a team that has high conviction without a leader with high conviction. You can't like manipulate your way into it. It's got to start off with my conviction that runs from there.
What was a great exercise, Brooke, for me in the book was looking at marketplace examples like United Airlines and Toyota and Microsoft, and how they had turned their work into a meaningful, world-changing mission. And it gives context to people on the production line and to flight attendants going through the safety demonstration and all of those things. You have to spend so much time really crystallizing why this matters.
And everyone wants to show up and believe that their work is meaningful and it matters. To your point, though, that doesn't just happen.
Right.
As leaders, we have to continue to keep that in front of our people over and over again and keep saying it to ourselves too, and align and make sure it's incredibly clear. But guys, this has been a great conversation. I love talking about this stuff. Thank you for being here today.
Brooke.
If you want to go deeper on conviction and the other 6 signatures, grab a copy of Reaching for Remarkable at reachingforremarkable.com. Next episode, we're talking about message because everything communicates, whether you intend it to or not. Until then, stay curious and keep reaching for remarkable.